What's up, tubes of you? All right, let's talk about when in Rome. So, the distinction between cowtailing and capitulation and sacrificing values or morals, um, Prince Revolution, bootlicking, bandwagoning, um, is distinct from speaking into the listening. Okay, so if someone loves apples, I'm not going to try to like push oranges on them and vice versa. Um, so with the mis and disinformation, I'm responsible, even though I didn't produce the misinformation, I am responsible for that information. As much as it hurts to appear quote unquote wrong at the beginning, but it's not being wrong. It's just taking responsibility for how a message of ineffectiveness could land on that person, and that Fox News told me this and Twitter told me that. Um, so the distinction is speaking into the listening is very different. So it's not that we're meeting in the middle. It's not centrism. You be you, I'll be me. So the challenge comes with the video and being able to edit, and people can manipulate the video to put their agenda. So clearly suppression isn't the way that we want to go, and there's tons of videos on media literacy that you can see, but that's going to be the solution for that. And everyone keep doing what you're doing, self-expression, however you do your art and your communication. Let's see 10 times that in the 2028 solution in 2026 if we're fast enough. Slow learning curve and a fast learning curve is speaking into the listening. And you have Bernie Sanders, AOC, talking about universal health care and income and housing and medical care and all that sort of stuff. And I ask you to invite you to take the opposite of that. And it's not the opposite of that. Take the solutions that those things would cause. Right? So what would universal income solve? That would solve people not being stressed about bills, let's say. What would universal medical care cause? It would cause people to not have to worry about those things. So being free. What would that make available for people if everybody had all those things? Happiness, health, wealth, love, abundance. That's what I see people missing from the abundance book, is that those were just a few examples, and we can nitpick on them. It's ultimately effectiveness, workability for all people. And if you think things aren't workable right now, I challenge you to think not again the opposite of that, but that it is working the way it's working. Everything happens for a reason. And sometimes that reason is to point us in the direction of what other people are pointing at. Not necessarily what they're saying or doing, but what they're pointing to, what their concern is, and to show us what is ineffective. So I went on a business trip to northern. I'll leave out the state, and I come back and I'm like to my manager, I'm like, Brendan, why did you send me to that office? That office was not run effectively. And she just so simply was like, that's like to show you what not to do. And I was like, oh, so much sense. And it was a wonderful business trip. We made tons. We promoted people. It was great. So in any event, we're speaking into the listening. So if their concern is their own the economy of the country, right? So some people want to pay off the debt, right? So seeing how that's possible even without taxing people, 100% possible, increasing the GDP, etc., saving our soil, undam the world, send the salmon home. So the benefits, right? So if people just see the cost, like that's what a conservative generally wants to do. Is why they're cutting all these programs, is and solving, effectively trying to solve all these issues. Um, so if I can spin the cost savings to the people that are concerned about cost savings, and be responsible for the stuff that they're concerned about that is made up by misinformation or making money off of ad sales. um it's gonna be a whole new world of people looking to entertain each other as jobs are taken away. We're gonna infotain, entertain, all the things. But so one example of cost savings is like, now most renewable energy sources are less expensive than fossil fuels. So that wasn't necessarily true like 3 years ago, like 2022. It just capped that now renewables are less expensive, depending on the project, and the scope. And we see, I believe it's the Mojave, I'm not sure which desert, but that project with the mirrors there would work on a smaller scale, but I believe they're having an issue that they didn't foresee there. But in any event, so generally, and the mass production of it, and we'll talk about the solar, massive solar farms, and it's the only, and sometimes people do the same exact thing but for different reasons. Trump wants to save the tax credits from massive solar farms, and I'm committed to saving the environment. And a snaked solar farm where it like moves along with the land, circular or whatever, would be effective to leave the land not covered. But these massive solar farms, they're covering up too much land and not working in conjunction and collaboration and cooperation with the land, and how it was designed. So if you happen to be Christian, that would be speaking into the listening of a lot of people that happen to vote Republican or conservative. And mind you, I think there's probably more Christians that vote the other direction. But in any event, I'm speaking into that listening. That's one example, but I'm speaking to the listening on the economy and the solar and possibly wind. I don't look at the economics on wind, but that being less expensive than fossil fuels and being better for a variety of other reasons. And the panels are made right here in America, so it's like we're already benefiting all that. So fast learning curve, slow learning curve. So speaking into that listening. So maybe I want to talk to someone that votes leaning left about the cost savings as well, but also the environment. Maybe, I mean, most of the time, however you vote, you're mainly looking to save the cash, not necessarily supporting the environment. If we can do both, it's great. But I'm gonna speak to different things depending on what that person cares about, and that's not being I guess it's being a chameleon, but it's not being snaky or salesy in the negative sense. It is merely speaking into what that person cares about. So again, I'm not gonna try to sell, something that someone doesn't want. So that would be one example. Oh yeah, just knowing how much more income we're gonna generate, $4 billion a year off of a project that cost us maybe 77 billion, but I think it's gonna pay for itself, and plus it generates so much more for the rest of the economy. So I'm specifically speaking about undamming the world, sending the salmon home, and how much bigger the salmon will get, and they are a keystone species to the bears, and if the bears don't get the salmon, then it messes with everything, with the trees, with the soil, with everything. So we're going to be able to double the amount of food produced, healthy food produced, off the same amount of land, and not have these droughts and all these, issues that farmers are dealing with. Might as well touch on that to begin with. My family comes from Connecticut, Yalman. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Replace that, or let me know in the comments if I am. But Yeah, so we'll get into that in a second when we talk about Quakers and Puritans, but um, any divisive issue, the most divisive issue you could possibly think about, has two different conversations that I have with one sector of the population versus the other sector of the population, and they are completely different conversations, and they both end up with the exact same solution of happiness. Um, equalizing, yeah, the birth rate. Apparently it's like 1 point something, and ideally it's 2 point something to stabilize the and people was like, oh, you want workers, you want like birthers. It's like no, not at all. I used to think there was the issue, from the Bill Gates side of things, of like, oh, there's too much population, and then it's like, oh, well, all we need to do is figure out how to, conserve the resources, have them reproduce. I mean, the amount of sediment that's coming out of these dams is just unreal, and then it's gone forever. And the 12 to 20%, it's not even that, it's 12% of the hydropower that's produced, like, easily can be done with all the other sources: wind, water, tidal, not even to mention tidal. Okay, so I'm, the ability to cut crime and cut costs at the same time, and it's like, doesn't have to be inhumane. So I'm talking to one side about the humanity side of things and the other side about the cost side of things, in that, how great would the economy be, the more free we are, being more free to speak, act, be however you want, and empowering happiness will empower this absolutely predictable outcome of young men not seeing purpose and love and all sorts of things. I mean, causing happiness among 18-year-olds plus and 15-year-olds, as long as the adult also uses those same tool sets and skill sets to be able to create lasting happiness for their life, would absolutely diminish, these ridiculous shootings. But the benefit to the NRA folk is like, hey, we're creating happiness, which is going to cut down on the gun violence, which is going to cut down on people complaining about gun violence. I'm not saying don't complain about it. It's just, I can hear the complaint as a concern, as a speaking to and a pointing to what a repetitive issue seems to be. So I get that, but we say in the military, puke up, don't puke down, and that's correct me if your battalion or whichever said it differently, but vent the challenges and complaints and concerns and anger to people that can point you in the right direction on how to solve those things, as opposed to venting to everybody about everything and then being seen as a complainer. The greatest American authors all wrote this stuff down from the time of the printing press to now. I mean, I can name countless books from the 1910s, 1900s to 1940s that answered everything. Everything. You can take a look. It's in a book. So you can have everything. You can't have everything, but you can have everything you want. So I can't remember who was just speaking about this, about it, but it was more about cowtailing and like give them what they want and meet in the middle. And it's like, no, it's like we all want happy. Well, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but maybe you tell me that you want to be a little happier, a little healthier, a little wealthier, a little wiser, have your community be wiser, that your friends and family don't know what you see is going on. Freedom from anxiety, freedom from resentment and regret, and a control over your own peace of mind, and being able to recapture that within seconds, minutes, hours, days, but never more than the long period of time that you like to spend on that. So back to Puritans and Quakers. So I had a grandfather that was a Quaker that got kicked out of Massachusetts because they didn't allow Quakers there, right? And so then throughout the years 1600s, 1700s, we all came to an agreement on a freedom of speech. So we all get what we want. You can't have everything. You can't have everybody be just like you. And by the way, I don't think you want that. Although use that to your empowerment, that like if everyone was just like me, what kind of world would it be? Brian Tracy. But we all agreed on the freedom of speech. We all agreed on it for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it works. Maybe challenging, but it works. Everything happens for a reason. Business trip. What you resist will persist. So there's the resistance, right? But that's the difference between early 1900s and left versus right only started in the 1800s. So before and up until now, many people want to resist and know that what you resist will persist. So that's not to say don't do what you're doing. Do what you're doing times 10. But just come to see that ultimately that 2028, 2026, if we're fast enough solution is to look, flattery and words are free. I can see the benefit. And I said everything happens for a reason, right? So pointing things that show us what is ineffective, and now we have it all on camera in color, right? We had it all on camera before, but it was in black and white. It wasn't nearly as much. Now we have it all on camera in color. That if anyone attempts to do X and expects Y to happen, when we have on video camera Z happening, won't be much of an argument anymore. Just that education that y'all want free. That is free. I mean, look, I'm taking a free Harvard class right now. I mean, Harvard's super freaking expensive, and they've opened it up to be free. But that was just a year ago, 2 years ago. You know, so you're not following everything. I no big deal. Just. You know, so it's all available. It's just a matter of that free education that you guys want to talk about. So, thank goodness to long form, effective, reachable anywhere there's free internet. Not free internet, but like not censored internet. Is available. I mean, look, YouTube alone has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars because I learn about something new or I Google something, and YouTube's on my Google for now, whatever. Yahoo it, whatever. I go to Yahoo and Bing and all the competitors to Google, and all it does is revert me over to YouTube anyway, or a Vimeo every 20 results. So flattery's free. I can compliment somebody. I can make make declarations and requests. I found Chris Voss on YouTube, FBI hostage negotiator. Excuse the thumb. Shows me you don't have to do XYZ. You don't have to hold the saw. You don't have to do this. You don't have to hold the hostages. So that's a declaration that I'm making, a request that I'm making. You don't have to continue fighting. Could save face. We're all 50th cousins. Punish in private, praise in public. There's a way to get what we want. It's pretty close to free, and it's long lasting. And it's just going to be a matter of being open, knowing that ego is a human element, that there is common threads that the genesis of identity that connect us, of common elements that happen wherever I was born, at around 5 at the earliest, maybe 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. We all have a similar experience. It's completely different experiences, but it all hits us as our 6-year-old selves in the same psychological feeling. I don't know how to word it, right? We made all these words up to begin with, but there's no real word for an experience that someone experienced, right? We all have a similar thought in our head. Maybe the world isn't so. I don't want to put words in our mouths, but say, well, what's wrong? What's the matter? And then that impacts us all slightly differently. Same thing at our 10, 11, 12 years old. We all have a very similar experience of, like, well, I don't belong at that lunch table, I belong at this lunch table. Or I don't belong in that sports club, I belong in this sports club. Or and then the same as we get older, at 18 years old, let's say 19, 20. Oh, I'm really on my own now. Nobody's coming to help me now. So that's it. Just a bunch of rambling for today. Like and subscribe. Speak into their listening. Look, I get what it takes. It takes what it takes to do that with your friends and your family and whatnot. But we're seeing a lot of really great questions being asked. Socratic method, whatever you want to call that, but and yeah, we're not attempting to own someone, or like there is a Uncle G, like, not competition but cooperation, collaboration. Like, there is a way that we all benefit and we all get what we want, and like, am I going to attempt to blast and publicize a message that works in the South and the North? No. Like, I'm going to speak to the issue there in a way that is speaking to the outcome and not just speaking to the problem, which drives the other side to think about the cost. You say universal income, universal health care, housing, medical care. It's like, all people hear is, oh my gosh, that sounds so expensive. What if it was free? What if it generated its own profit? What if the rent from the housing paid for itself? Yeah, there's an apolitical approach that's gonna work. And I've said it before, y'all can go back to fighting and being partisan in 8 years or 12 years or whatever, but there's again, you can have everything that you really want. You can't have everything that you want. You can't have everything that you really, 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 really want. That other stuff that you think that you want, you don't really want. Most people don't know what they really want. Most people are too distracted. And again, I'm speaking to my future self and you, if you're still watching this. I appreciate you watching. And peace out. Have the best day ever. And when you see the things that empower you and allow you to be doubly effective as you have been in the past, that's the real stuff. People talk about fact and fiction and true and false and lies. We're there. What you really want is reality. Oh, who said that recently? Real recognizes real. All right, peace and love. Bye-bye.